Um, well, I was just talking to someone earlier, and they mentioned the word playful and fun. And here I'm talking about global warming and pandemics and, the history of the world, which is so complex and heavy. Um, I hope that these pieces speak to having fun and being playful and the importance of spontaneity and joy and being a goofball and not being too full of oneself and referencing fairy tales and magic and what it's like to be a child. I hope that this work speaks to that. And it's really interesting because if I compare the way I work with the digitally printed pieces, one thing we didn't talk about is my process is very layered and complex and takes years. So when I start my process, I start painting for a year or two, different vignettes. You can see some of the original paintings on the wall there. And as a textile designer, I trained to work with gouache, so I really love gouache. And most of the work is on 20 by 30 or 30 by 40 pieces of paper. I scan the work at a high resolution. I digitally import it into Photoshop. I plan my compositions. I do many iterations of ideas over and over and over digitally. So it's very much about problem solving and designing. Whereas the three-dimensional pieces, I feel like, are totally spontaneous. I don't have a plan. I just had a planter in my backyard, and the three-legged planter became this guy. And I had some swim noodles from a giant brain cell I had made a couple years ago with Ben Volta, and that became the tail. And so there is something very playful and fun and inventive about using unusual materials, found materials, not planning something, just going with the process of being creative and just really having some fun. So I really had a lot of fun making these hands. I don't know if you saw it on social media. I was waving my hands around, but I love the fingernail. They're like drag queen fingernails. And I kind of want this work to be a little bit foreboding, but also fun. So also as a textile designer, I kind of have the classic fiber art route I didn't go in my life. A lot of fiber artists, they study weaving and basketry and fiber and craft materials. And I didn't go that route. I trained as a textile print designer to design patterns and repeat. And so being able to work with fiber and experiment with, like, for example, the neck piece is made from a screen door, the material for a screen door. The grommeting, I have this really great grommet, industrial grommet maker that I did on the surface. Those are my sneakers inside the boots. And so I think it was just really fun starting to embrace some of the more traditional craft and fiber techniques that I never trained as, and to have some fun with it. And also to kind of let go of being so design driven, which is my background. So I've had to kind of work to break out of that, because as a designer, you really train to think about the client, to think about the end use, to plan everything, it's a very, it's not always a spontaneous process when you're a designer, right? You're limited. It's working within the limitations. So this was all about just having fun. Also, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but when I lived in New York, I wanted to be a dancer, and I used to hang out with all the dance community in the East Village back in the day, and I was costume designing for avant-garde theater and off-Broadway theater. So I'm a drama queen. And so I think I'm kind of embracing my old self by bringing back the drama and trying to find a way to create a piece that is figurative, but also is, I'm interested in fashion and costume, and so just trying to create some kind of dramatic impact that's more accessible and friendly than maybe some of this work. Yeah.
You're speaking about drama and costumes, and so one might wonder within the context of these other pieces as well if these play a role of a character at all for you, or if they did at any point while you were making them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because the installer, Katie Lowe, who helped me, she said that this looked like the sorcerer and their familiar. And I wasn't thinking in that language. And then I've had other people, I had another show at Rowan University, and I got a write-up at one point where someone had mentioned my work was referencing Mexican figurines and that culture. And I don't really see a particular culture or character. They're more open-ended than that. But I guess I am thinking more about fantasy, and I'm thinking of what I can create that is not human, but at the same time is like anthropomorphic or human-like. These creatures are the beginning of a story that I'm not finished telling, and I really feel like, I love nature, I love animals, and I would love to do like a whole series of animals that are very playful. At one point, this is actually a mask, so you can take it off and wear it. And because of my theater and dance background, I had thought of collaborating with a performative group of some type, but I never got to that point. But yeah, I see these more as generic and not specific, that they can mean different things to different people. But I do a lot of global visual research. So like I'm looking at African masks, I'm looking at, all different kinds of sculpture and figurative works from all over the world. So, but I wouldn't say that there's no specificity to them.